Hello, so we're going to show you some new functionality that will help you classify a mixture. So we're putting together a mixture, a clean product, and we're in the composition tab. We went ahead and we entered two components, glycerol, and we just entered acetone. So we'll go ahead and for glycerol we'll just go and we're just going to say it's call it less than 10%, and acetone as well, less than 10%. And you'll notice that we have a new column, which is the Ghs Classification Column. And we have a TBD, which means to be determined for glycerol, and we have yes for acetone. So let's see what that really means. So if we go to the substance record for acetone by clicking on the S button and selecting List SDS Components, double-clicking on acetone, clicking on Health tab, we will see in the hazard summary table that indeed we have Ghs classification data. And this is why, I'll close this window, this is why for acetone we have yes in that column. If we go into the glycerol record, the substance record, click on the Health tab, we have no Ghs data. We can go ahead and, based on our knowledge of glycerol, if we check off the Not Ghs Classified button, press the Save button, press Done, then the To Be Determined, if we double click, it will refresh that record and it will turn into No. And so this gives us information on whether a substance has been classified as Ghs, hazardous, or not, or again, to be determined, where we know that we need to go back and do some work. Let's go and add another component to our mixture by pressing the plus button, and we'll add lead acetate. Select lead acetate, and we see that it has been classified. And let's add lead acetate at 1%. Press Save. Now let's look at the Hazard tab. And we've also added a Suggest button, which will look at the hazards of the components and suggest possible health hazards based on the components, their individual Ghs classifications, and their concentrations. Now please remember, at this point we do not have a suggestion for the physical hazards such as flammability, oxidizer, compressed gas, etc. So what this will do is it will generate a report which you can print out and review, and it will summarize each of the components and whether any associated Ghs classification, they're listed here, the concentrations. Then it will provide an overall summary of the classifications in the mixture, and then it will try to deduce or suggest based on the composition and concentration whether or not a classification might be applicable. For example, in this case, we suggest that a eye damage irritation category 2A seems reasonable. But sensitization, germ cell mutagenicity, carcinogenicity, no. Reproductive toxicity, it's suggested that it's a category 1 because we have lead acetate at 1%. And And there's other data here as well. So again, this is really meant not to be a definitive answer, but it's meant to be a tool to help you come up with the classification of the mixture. So when we look at the overall hazard classes of the components, then again, the only one of these 7 which is a physical hazard is number 2, which is the flammable liquid category 2. And so I'm going to assume that the mixture is indeed a flammable liquid category 2. So let's go ahead just to close it out. Okay, so to go ahead and close out the classification, I will make the assumption that the mixture is indeed flammable liquid category 2. So we'll click on the drop down and we'll select flammable liquid category 2, and we'll auto-populate the pictograms, hazard statements, precautionary statements, and then we'll select the eye damage category 2A, similarly auto-populate. We'll select the reproductive category 1. And the specific target organ toxicity repeated exposure category 2. And we'll notice that our pictograms, hazard statements, and precautionary statements have been populated. And press save.